TJ, aka Phelixx Lake, is back in my inbox. I did say it wouldn't be long. It never is long. I have featured him on the channel a number of times. I think there's 3 videos since November covering 4 singles, and he's presenting to me something that's slightly different. He's going on a sort of a metalcore pop punk kind of a style arrangement with 2 singles that I'm going to play and react to today. The first one was released in 28th of April. It's called Devastating Outcomes, so let's just give that a whirl.
Devastating outcomes. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. With no convictions, you hold all your victims hostage. It's like you're on a mission. It's like you're on a mission. You know you fit the description. You know you fit the description. You don't solve the problems, you only make them worse. The day that I met you, I was cursed. I was cursed. I was cursed. Oh, your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. But you still make a holding all your victims hostage. You do what you want. You don't have to be cursed. You're my greatest flaw, and no one here can change my mind. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. It must take a lot to not feel at all guilty. Even when you're caught, you keep doing the same thing. You don't solve the problems, you only make them worse. The day I met you, I was cursed. I was cursed. You don't solve the problems, you only make them worse. You only make them worse. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. But you still make a holding all your victims hostage. You do what you want. You don't have to be cursed. You're my greatest flaw, and no one here can change my mind. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. Devastating outcomes. Devastating outcomes. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. With no convictions, you hold all your victims hostage. It's like you're on a mission. I think you need a prescription. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes. But you still make them 'cause your heart's more like a handgun. You can do what you want. You don't have to be cursed. You're my greatest flaw, no one here can change my mind. Your decisions, they have devastating outcomes.
It's a shame for me because I'm a little bit old and set in my ways. I love my dark and terror. So I do struggle with some of this metalcore stuff, and particularly the lighter side, I suppose you'd call it, that sort of pop punky type. So it's a little bit too American college sounding for me. I don't mean that disrespectfly. And I don't mean that to any detriment of TJ's musicianship, but using my more logical ears, I can see that that's actually very, very catchy. I mean, it had me singing. Okay, it didn't have me violently moving about and stuff, because I love darkness in him, and hugely kind of sort of epically type of kind of dramatic, crazy stuff, which this wasn't. This was nicely compact. This was nicely chorusy, very catchy. I'm sure, had I grown up in that kind of defining metalcore era, I mean, some would say we're probably still in it, but had I grown up with that more, this is something that probably would have totally resonated with me more, and it's and I can see how this actually is it would be really catchy to fans that are kind of more into this genre than I am. I think there was a part, let me have a look at my timer, there was a part, I think somewhere, the verse, somewhere around the 30-second, 40-second mark, where it goes into sort of a higher register. That was a nice transition. There's some nice atmospherics going on in the background before sort of like drops and bits and pieces. Obviously, it's not as heavy as some of the stuff that I've reviewed from TJ, but the clarity of bass, the clarity of, I suppose, the drop and the guitars and everything was still all there. It's still got lots of signatures of TJ, so it is a very good composition, despite it being sort of out of my internalized framework of preferences, I suppose, and that's a me problem, not a TJ or a fan problem. Interesting point to add, he's had a little bit of assistance there with a gentleman called Joel Dickinson from Dream Demon, who are a South African metalcore band, and Joel is doing all the screams in that one and a bit of the cleans too. So it's a nice pairing. To be fair, to my ears, I listen to so much, it's hard to maybe keep my memory as fresh as it was, but it was hard to sort of differentiate the two, really, so that means they make for a nice, good pairing, and that came across very well in the records. So Devastating Outcomes, I think, is a catchy, capitalised one. I think it will actually pull in people into from that sort of like post-poppy, metalcore-ish kind of listener field, and they'll pull them into Phelixx Lake and then by doing so pull them into the Phelixx Lake that I know and have a slight leaning preference towards. But yeah, okay, I've waffled on for long enough. There is a second single which was released on the 26th of May, and this is called Sway.
Like you're some monster.
Yep, definitely the punkier of the two, and I think actually that one I kind of preferred more. But it seems I'm a lover for the pacey verses as opposed to these kind of happier choruses. And this kind of alludes to TJ's sort of dualistic nature, and as if you listen to a lot of the earlier or previously released Phelixx Lake stuff, you get a lot of that. You get a lot of sort of confrontation of the darkness, and then it's kind of made light of. Yeah, so I'd like that one more. That one would be a suitable sort of driving track. That's kind of the sort of imagery I had in my head. I mean, the one thing about Phelixx Lake is that does ring true is that it continues to challenge my ears. So, you know, for this kind of thing, I'm grateful for, as any other band that is slightly outside of, you know, my sort of tried and tested sort of personally preferred genres. I think fans of Phelixx Lake, that was a bit of a tongue twister, fans of Phelixx Lake will enjoy the material as much as the previous stuff I've listened. For me personally, I just can't wait for TJ to write something that gives you the slap in the face that I'm kind of sort of used to here and there from his previous work. But no, I also noticed a couple of changes as well in the Phelixx Lake development. There is a rockout2.com profile, which I find exceedingly well worded and very nicely laid out and accessible. There are even more links being populated below, so evidence that this chap is doing absolutely the right thing and gaining exposure and increasing his net. And I wish him many more subscribers and listeners and reaction views as well, reaction videos as well. And as always, TJ, very nice to hear from you, very nice to hear and see what you're up to. And as always, I'm very interested to see where you go next. You're a very prolific creator and musician. You do have this very well-rounded sound about you, and your production remains on form. There's a trick that you do with manages to chorus the vocals, which I'd love to learn how to do myself. Because it sounds very wide, and then it kind of sort of sucks you back into, you know, the normal clean vocal. You probably have got a better wording than I on that particular trick, but it's a cool effect, and I've picked that up in both of the tracks and before, and I do like that. So yes, that's been kind of me catching up with Phelixx Lake. 2 singles there. If you haven't heard the rest, links and stuff below. I'll leave the links to some other videos, and I've been Ben Sebastian.